pre-election day voting is already higher than it was in 2018. For example, Lane County saw 33% of its residents already vote by this morning. That's 5% higher than it was just 2 years ago. Now, Oregonians have a lot to consider when they head to the polls and cast their ballots. Things have escalated since we last checked in with you guys. You can see tables set up as a barricade. Earlier, we saw cops forming. We actually haven't seen them close in on this crowd yet, but we saw SWAT cars and police, so protesters were preparing for that. And if we move a little bit further, you can see a sign set aflame by protesters here. This is on the entrance to the Washington-Jefferson Bridge on the I-5 coming out of Eugene. And if we continue to move, you can still see the crowd gathered here, setting off fireworks. For Oregon counties and cities, quite a lot was at stake here. I mean, just for the city of Eugene in and of itself, $5 million was expected for the Riverfront Park project. The fire has spread to about 60 acres and is only 10% contained. Now, we're standing on Row River Road, about the 4-mile mark, and you can see the hills behind me. It's still glowing a little bit. Some of the flames have gone to the other side of the hill. And now people are kind of viewing this as maybe a makeup for that lost game and a chance to get out on that national stage one more time this season. So a lot riding on this game. Of course, it's also the seniors' last game. That they're still waiting to see if the governor will call a special session to get some of this funding passed. But as you can see, there is a lot on the line. Next week, finals will be online, and classes during the first 3 weeks of the upcoming spring term will also be online. In this particular trash bag, we've got human feces put in the same bag as used syringes. And this is all left by the homeless in this area, all left on this private property. They're still trying to figure out what to do with this all. The city is still not clear as to whether they're going to help clean this up. Police, of course, still investigating. We'll be sure to bring you the latest information as we learn it right here. Reporting in Eugene, I'm Elyaderani.
You can't prepare for this because you don't really know what's going on.
Ray Whittemore has type 1 diabetes, which means he needs to take insulin daily or his blood becomes dangerously acidic. That can be fatal if unchecked.
It's not a pleasant thing. It's like you're, sick in bed with the flu, but it just doesn't go away. It's
a condition he's managed for decades, but the cost of insulin is rising dramatically. His insulin brand, Humalog, has seen a price increase of over 1,200% since 1996. A generic version they announced earlier this year would still be over 600% higher. We reached out several times to the Humalog manufacturer Lilly for comment as to why the price was going higher, but they never responded.
It becomes increasingly difficult to try to live on a budget and survive through this.
For Whittemore, it's especially difficult because he's on Medicare. Medicare patients face a portion of the year called the donut hole, where after months of copays assisted by Medicare, that financial assistance drops off until they're able to spend their way out of the donut hole and go back into Medicare. And in that donut hole period, patients are facing close to full price for their medications.
Folks hit that donut hole and it's a bit of a surprise.
Pharmacist Brennan Black says not only is the sudden cost jarring, jumping from around $100 one month to over $450 the next in Whittemore's case, but a vast majority of cost assistance programs exclude Medicare patients.
They've got this copay assistance card with all this fine print on it that now it's up to the pharmacy staff to explain, well, this isn't available because being a federally funded healthcare program.
Dr. John Benyon says he sees this issue with Medicare patients in his practice a lot.
It's a little bit unsatisfying for us to feel like we can't provide patients with what we feel like are the best medications out there due to cost limitations or insurance coverage.
Benyon says the prohibitive cost of insulins has led some of his patients to take their medications less often, something Whittemore also admits to trying.
Kind of doing that a little bit now, just a little bit less, eat a little bit less. I mean, that's all I can do. You can't just stop it.
But Benyon says rationing comes with long-term risks, like blindness, losing sensation, and kidney issues.
I think we worry about all of those things.
Whittemore is aware of the risks, but after retiring, he says there isn't much choice.
Not good. I mean, really, there's got to be a better way.
But until prices come down or cost assistance comes in, Whittemore, along with others reliant on insulin, will have to make their own way. Reporting in Eugene, I'm Elyaderani. Well, Jackie, a local nurse who works at McKenzie-Willamette Medical Center spoke to us about the situation. They're joining the Oregon Nurses Association in its criticism that nurses are being left in the dark about the conditions of their patients and what happens if they contract COVID-19 on the job. Nurses working on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic have received no shortage of public appreciation. This parade, put on by Springfield's police department to thank healthcare workers for their dedication during this crisis. But Oregon Nurses Association Representative Kevin Mealy says in many cases, nurses aren't feeling that kind of support from their employers.
For many workers, it's not an if question, it's when and how bad will it be.
One nurse at McKenzie-Willamette Medical Center agreed to talk to us anonymously, saying they're afraid of retaliation. When the pandemic began, they say their hospital faced a testing shortage, like other medical facilities.
Most of the time, we are unaware of what the status of a patient is, what sort of protections we need to take for patient safety, home safety, community safety.
McKenzie-Willamette declined an interview, but tells us in a statement they've always followed strict guidelines and CDC recommendations for safety and is beginning to test all admitted patients. The hospital adds that its employees are covered by regular sick leave and workers' compensation benefits. But according to Mealy, that's not enough. He says nurses need a separate emergency sick leave plan. The latest update from the Oregon Health Authority says around a fifth of all people who test positive for COVID-19 are healthcare workers. Mealy claims McKenzie-Willamette doesn't have a separate pool of sick leave if nurses contract COVID-19 on the job and don't have any of their usual sick time left.
Nurses need to know, particularly if they aren't being protected at the bedside, that they will be protected on the home front and they'll have leave they can rely on.
McKenzie-Willamette says employees who most likely contracted COVID-19 at work would receive workers' comp if they test positive. But Mealy claims the language of that agreement is loose and may force nurses to prove they contracted COVID-19 while working in order to receive workers' comp, as other hospitals have already done. And proving that you caught COVID-19 at work can be really tough. The testing can sometimes take days to go through, and nurses don't have access to past patient records due to privacy laws. Of course, there's also the possibility that the patient you were working with was asymptomatic and was never tested. The nurse tells me they're prepared for this reality.
I would have been told to stay home for the 2-week period of quarantine. And unless I had enough vacation hours on hand, I would not have been paid during that time.
Despite yet another uncertainty, they tell us nurses remain undeterred in their fight against the virus.
Most of us want to be at work. Most of us want to be there to help people that are sick. That's our passion.
That passion beating out fear as the community thanks nurses, bracing for another day on the job.
This happened in a pretty populated area, but geez, this could have been really, really bad.
Things started off relatively normal for Springfield's firefighters responding to a house fire nearby. But soon after they got there, disturbing words heard over the police scanner.
C2, Medic 4, Medic 1, Medic 11, response to the house fire, shots fired.
Firefighters were walking into a trap. As they left their vehicle, the suspect blasted the fire truck with rounds from a 12-gauge shotgun, retreating firefighters calling for help while the blaze continued to spread to nearby homes.
We got there within minutes and began searching for the suspect.
That suspect, police now identify as 65-year-old Lance Taylor Jacobs, fired on police too, forcing one officer to take cover behind a civilian vehicle as gunfire hit the car and the garage behind him.
Anybody with boots on the ground, when that shotgun blast strikes the pavement, could be disabled from foot level, ground level gunfire. So we're really, really fortunate that nobody got hurt.
As more police arrived, officials say the suspect was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Officers then proceeded to help firefighters put out the blaze while crews continued to arrive. The fire completely destroying 3 buildings, initially started by the suspect in his own home. It was an ambush, a danger that fire officials worry could grow.
We are very concerned as a trend community from a nationwide perspective, and we're going to be looking at all industry standards to determine what we can do to promote the safety of our responders.
After Springfield lost its homeless warming center due to fire safety concerns, Egan Warming Center's Shelley Cordoville left us with a desperate plea last week for a new location.
I know we can do it in Springfield. I know we can. So I'm asking, please help us, please.
As temperatures bordered on freezing, Cordoville contacted the city hoping to find a winter home for the homeless. The city, too, feeling the pressure.
There was no place for these folks that don't have an address to be, and it's getting colder, and we feel it every night. It's getting colder. So there was a lot of urgency.
That's when the Springfield School District contacted the city with an offer, their former administration building.
This is a way for us to extend to the other adults and community members in a building that's not being used right now and can be easily used during these critical months of cold weather.
Giving us a tour of the building, Yancey explained it still has heat, electricity, and running water. Cordoville fighting back tears as she described telling her guests they have a home.
Many of them got real teary-eyed, and, it couldn't be a happier thing for me or them.
With winter weather looming ahead.
Oh, yes, just in the nick of time.
In Springfield, I'm Perry Elyaderani reporting. On New Year's Day, the cooler in Eugene was full of Ducks fans watching the Rose Bowl, whether they were fans by birth.
I was born and raised here, so I just became a Duck fan then.
By choice.
Duck.
He crossed over to the Duck side.
To the Duck side. Came over to the Duck side.
Or by association. Even the bartender, who doesn't really see herself as a football fan, had something to look forward to.
We have a bell that we ring every time there's a touchdown, and that's the most fun part. You get to go ring the bell really loud.
And soon, the bells will be ringing for this couple. They're spending the day before their wedding here, cheering the Ducks at the same bar where they met.
I was sitting here with a friend of mine, and we were kind of drinking a little bit, and I looked at her, and I was like, okay, well, So I asked her if she wanted to have a shot with me and him, and she said she would.
Thought he was kind of loud.
Did you think that it would end here at the bar a day before your wedding?
No, I didn't know, but I'm happy it did.
They exchanged numbers, went on dates, and more than a year later, they're returning engaged.
Yeah, exactly.
Their love story interrupted by the bell signaling the Ducks win. So whether folks in the bar came for the game,
just happy that they won. Woo!
The bells, or to celebrate a new chapter in life.
Not a better person I want to spend my New Year with than her.
Yeah. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. Go Ducks.
Everyone seemed to leave optimistic about the new year. Reporting in Eugene, I'm Perry Elyaderani. Take a passing glance at this high school basketball game and you might miss it. Like any big game, there are cheerleaders, a crowd full of fans, and an announcer. But today, it's this Junction City team that's making local history as the first to deliberately include students with and without disabilities.
How does it feel to be a part of the team?
Awesome? How's it make your heart feel?
Happy.
It's called Unified Basketball. It's a program supported by Special Olympics that organizes players from varsity sports, known as partners, with student athletes that have disabilities. And the partners say it's erasing their judgments about their peers who may need extra help.
You're just a group of kids that are hanging out, playing basketball. You all are having fun, and you're all doing it for a good reason, and so you kind of forget about all the other stuff, and you just play the game.
And play they do. No matter who was scoring, the packed auditorium would blow out our microphone with enthusiasm.
You make a basket and do they clap and cheer for you?
Yeah.
What do they do? Show me. And they go, woo!
Reese got that moment Wednesday. This basket and many others thanks to the support that these athletes get from their partners on varsity teams.
The partners are very in tune with their teammates, the athletes, and they work with them and they help them overcome those barriers that they face, which helps our partners be more mindful, I think, of themselves and how they can help other people.
Coach Mills hopes the success of this program leads to other unified sports because students like Maddie, who watched her older brother play basketball for 8 years before getting her chance, are just getting started.
Go Tiger!
Go Tiger!
Reporting in Junction City, I'm Perry Elyaderani.